most people, when you're getting started, you want to start with bonus leads. And the reason why is you want to have as many at-bats as you possibly can have. All right. A lead is not a guaranteed sale. A lead is not a guaranteed appointment. A lead is someone who at some point in time was interested in the product that's being offered on the form, the ad, however they found out about it. So mortgage protection, general life, they saw that ad, they saw that form in the mail, they looked at it, they said, this might be interesting for my family to have, okay? Now, most of these bonus leads, they're anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, a year. I mean, if you get and I always mess it up, Mike, is it the B5s are the oldest or B1s? I'm always backwards on which way it starts. But if you get the oldest bonus leads, I mean, it may have been 2 or 3 years since they sent that in, all right? And now some people are like, well, why would I call them? Well, if they haven't gotten that taken care of, do you think there's still a need for them to have the product? And short answer is yes, right? Like if they never got it taken care of, yes, there still is a need. If they still have a $350,000 mortgage, dual family income, nobody has life insurance, there's still a need. Now, what's missing from a bonus lead that may exist more readily for a brand new A lead? Somebody just filled it in a week ago and you're picking up the phone to call them. What's missing? What's the difference between those two leads? Anybody?
Urgency.
Urgency. What else?
Emotion.
Emotion, right? So it's probably not as urgent, because if it was urgent, they would have done it when they sent it in 6 months ago. And the emotion isn't there because do you think they've been sitting around for the past 9 months, Candy, just thinking about, man, I can't wait till somebody calls me about that form I filled out, right? No, all right? They've been doing life, okay? So what do I need to do when I'm reaching out to that particular client on a bonus lead in order to have a good conversation with them? I need to resurrect those two things that were just mentioned. I have to resurrect urgency and I have to resurrect the emotion. Why they sent that form in the first place. And here's the thing. I've identified, and if anybody has anything else, please let me know. I've identified 4 key areas that if we can answer this question for them, we can resurrect both the urgency and the emotion. Number 1, I'm going to assume whenever I call them, and I'm going to let them know that I'm assuming this, that this question is not, that the answer to this is yes, okay? And the question is, well, do you still care about your family and want to make sure that if something happened to you, they'd be protected? I'll say that again. Do you still care about your family? And if something happened to you, do you want to make sure that they're protected? I'm going to assume that the answer is yes, right? If the answer is no, then we don't even need to keep talking. Like, okay, if you don't care about your family, you're not worried about them, then we can go ahead and get off the phone. But I'm going to let them know, hey, Candy, I see we sent this form out a while back. I don't know if you were able to talk to someone when you first sent it in, but I'm giving you a call because number 1, we don't see that you got this taken care of in our system. And I'm assuming that you still do care about your family. You want to make sure that, God forbid something happens to you, that your family's taken care of. That's still accurate, right? You do care about your family in that way? Okay, right. I'm going to get that out of the way first and foremost, right? Because if that question is nah, I don't care about it. And here's the thing, guys. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've certainly had some people be like, I don't care. You know, when I'm dead, just put me in a box, throw me in the hole, and they'll figure it out. I've certainly had some people say that, right? And let's be honest, we all know there are people in this world that are like that. We can't help them. So don't even try. Don't even worry about it. Like, all right, sir, well, hope they get a nice box for you. You have a good day, you know? And then I'm moving on, all right? Now, after that, there are 3 additional questions that are going to help me determine what is the problem that we need to solve of why they didn't get that coverage when they first got the call. Number 1, in most people's mind, is cost. All right, well, then let's think back. Like, did you have a chance to talk to someone and find out what the cost of this would be? Like, is that one of the things that prevented you from moving forward, is you're worried about how much it would cost? And then I want to have a conversation around that. If they found out, okay, how much was it? Oh wow, yeah, that does seem expensive. Well, good thing some time has passed, because we have some great new options that will be able to help you out in a much better way, and probably at a much lower cost. All I need is about 20-30 minutes of your time. Let's sit down and go over those new options. And you guys, you can use anything. Time, blame it on COVID, right? Like, we can blame everything on COVID. But because of COVID, we have better and newer options for people, right? Like, if it's been that long since you looked at this, there are new options every single day that are coming out. And here's the thing, there are newer options. Like, we didn't have SPLI pre-COVID. We didn't have some of the instant decision products that we have that give term rates that are like fully underwritten, but simplified issue. All right. So number one, cost. You got to answer that question. All right. Number two, well, okay, so the cost, you're okay with the cost. Was it the person that you talked to? I get it. There's some insurance agents out there that I don't want to talk to either. I go to plenty of conferences. I sit with some of these people. Some of them not that great. Like, I get it. That happens. Was it an issue with the person that you were talking to, that you guys just not connect? And then I'm waiting to hear what the response is. I mean, maybe the response is, well, I don't really remember, or yeah, like, it just didn't feel right. I didn't. Okay, all right. Well, I hope you'll give me an opportunity to be able to get this information, this very important information, because you said you do care about your family and you want to make sure that they're protected. That person just wasn't the right one for you. So hopefully you'll give. Can you help me out? Can you give me the opportunity to show you what we might be able to do for you and your family? Right. So it's like, maybe there was just an issue in the beginning, right? Like, who they talked to, how they first heard about it. That can also extend to, man, maybe just like crazy things were happening at that time, right? Maybe it wasn't the person, it was them, right? That's the other way this can go. Oh no, it wasn't them. I was just really busy, and we just had a kid and just moved into this new house, and life was going 18,000 miles an hour, and I just couldn't slow down. Okay, fine, right? Can we take 30 minutes now to make sure that we answer question number one, that we're protecting your family in the way that you want to have them protected? All right. So that's number two. It's that personal side. Personal either being the agent who initially spoke to them, or themselves, right? That could have been the reason why they didn't get the coverage 6 months ago, a year ago, a year and a half ago, right? And then the last one is typically going to be health, right? They actually had the conversation, they dove into it, costs kind of worked, but maybe they applied, or maybe they were getting ready to apply, and the agent was like, well, based off of your health right now, we can't do anything, right? Maybe they didn't qualify at that time. This is the reason that we had Transamerica on, was it last week or the week before last, where we learned about some other options, other things that are available for people who have some very serious health issues. And that's that third part, right? Is qualify. Did you not qualify? Did something happen? Did you try to apply and you didn't get the coverage? All right, that's fine. Going back to what we said earlier on the cost, there have been a lot of changes, a lot of things have happened in our market over the last few years, and I really feel confident that we'll be able to find something that will help protect your family, right? Because having something to protect your family is better than having nothing. Do you agree with me on that? And Howard, if they say, oh yeah, no, I agree, guess what? I have a great appointment. And if they say, nah, I don't believe having something versus nothing, I don't care. I want the full thing. Well, then we may need to go ahead and end this call right now, because I can't guarantee you that I can get you the full thing, but I can certainly help you get something as opposed to having nothing. And if you are okay with that, we can move forward, right? So those are the four questions, okay? And if you think of others, I'd love to hear you. Shoot me a text, shoot me an email if there's others that don't fit into one of those four categories, because the reason that they didn't get coverage before is going to be in one of those four categories. Either they don't care, right? They care or they don't care. That's one category. There's a cost issue, either a perceived cost or a real cost. Maybe someone actually gave them a quote and it was too much. Maybe they never even got a quote and they just think it's going to cost too much, right? There's a personal issue, either with the agent who originally approached them or with themselves at the time. or there's a qualification issue. And so whenever I'm having that conversation with these bonus leads, Ashley, that's what I'm trying to, in that first little bit of the conversation, that's what I'm trying to dig into and say, hey, give me 5 minutes, because you said earlier, and we start off with, do you care? And you say you care. You care about your family. That's the reason I'm calling, because we want to make sure that you have every opportunity to get this taken care of in the right way for you and your family. And then from there, I'm going to go into those other three: cost, personal, or qualification. And if I can solve that, now we can go to, okay, let's book 30 minutes. What works best for you this upcoming Wednesday at 5 or 7 p.m. And now we have the appointment, and we know what the issue was. Like, we already know going into that appointment. And this is what I like about this versus even A leads. I get to go into the appointment knowing what prevented them from getting this coverage before. And now we can solve that. And what's to hold us back from getting coverage? Because they basically already told me, yes, I would like to have coverage. I didn't get it because of this. If we can solve this, then I'm ready to move forward. And I can't do that with an A lead like I can do it with a bonus lead, which is why, again, I really like the bonus leads that we have and what's available to us there. So does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on that before we wrap up for today? I just, go ahead, Martin.
If you're having such a good conversation with them right then and there, do you sometimes just start the application process? Or
sure. If they have the time and they're ready to go, they're like, I got 30 minutes right now. Can we talk about this right now? Fantastic. Let me get, and always have any screens that you may need to run quotes, to check agent guides, and to do that FIF form. Have those up and ready to go at any point in time while you're making your dials. Right? Because you're right, Martin. If they say, well, I got 20 minutes right now, can we do it right now? Sure, of course. Let me get a little bit more information. By the way, is your spouse there with you? Can you just put us on speaker? That might be the only thing that would keep me from going right into the appointment. Is I do not like to run a single leg appointment. Right? If it's a husband and wife, I want both of them there. If it's a husband and husband, if it's a wife and wife, I want them both there. Right? Because if they're making this choice, they're doing it for somebody else. And I want to make sure both of them are committed to what we're getting ready to go and do. All right. That'd be the only thing that would keep me from going right into it. But if somebody is urgent and insist, like, man, I'm so glad you called, Martin. I've been actually thinking about this here recently. I just had, my father just passed away the other day, or a friend of mine passed away and left their family with nothing. I need to do something about this today. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get it taken care of. And then what we'll do on the follow-up is make sure that we get your spouse on the line with us whenever we're delivering the policy, to make sure that they understand everything that we did, and that they understand what they now have. That makes sense?
It does. Even if they say, hey, don't worry about it, my wife's going to do whatever I want to do, let's look at it now.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of men who say that, but we all know the truth. We all know the truth. Go ahead, Scott.
Scott, direct to Ike Manello. I'm learning. So two quick things. To your point about having the other person there, I had a 72-year-old lady, a young lady about an hour north of me, that I was going to do an appointment with, and I uncovered that her daughter, who's in her mid-30s, is in charge of all her stuff, and I halted the appointment to make sure that we could get the daughter looped in as well, because number one, I don't want to come across as a predatory guy on a senior citizen, but I also want to make sure that the people that are involved with her passing, that are going to deal with her estate, are in the loop and on board with what's happening. And it also kind of, to me, in my head, it opens up the door for other policies and referrals to come in through that same family.
Yep.
So that was actually a very good point, and something that I stopped yesterday. And then on another part, if I could get somebody to jump into a mentor room with me after this, I've got a scenario that played out yesterday that I just kind of want to talk through with somebody. So
Okay.
thank you.
I can do that with you, Scott. We'll see which one of the mentor rooms, whichever one is open. If it's number one, we'll just jump right into there.
Okay, thanks. I just didn't want to take up too much of this time.
All good. Thanks, sir. But yeah, that's a really key point. It may not be a spouse. Maybe it's just a key advisor, a child, a grandchild. If we're dealing with someone like that, you want to make sure that the decision makers, who are the decision makers in this person's life, and that person needs to be a part of the conversation. If they're not, they're typically, not all the time, but many of the times they're going to end up being your worst nightmare later on when they're like, Mom, why'd you do this? I told you to check with me before you know, and she's calling you back. Well, my son said that I need to go ahead and cancel it. Like, that's what's going to happen, right? So it's like, let's go ahead and bring the son in, the daughter in, the grandchild in right from the get-go, right? So that's a very good point. Thanks for bringing that up, Scott. Doug, did you have one thing to say before we close out? So you unmuted.
Well, no, that's a great. Can you hear? I pulled over so we. That's a great point. I like the point Scott you're bringing up as far as people might say, well, that's bold to say, hey, you still care about your family, but you know, it when you're calling a bonus lead, that's the cool thing about it. It's not like it's not like there's $40. I mean, not to talk about lead costs, but $30 or $40, $50 on the line. Your posture should be better because you got more, I'll take quantity over quality, right? So when you're calling a bunch of B1, B2, B3, B5 leads, a lead. I don't care as long as I get them. But the biggest thing is, I'll say you brought up something, because one thing I've learned, it seems like in 12 years that I constantly get because I work only B leads. I like the lead. I just think it's a great lead around the whole spectrum. But the one thing constant, I hate to say objection because it's really not objection. It's just, I want to buy, I don't want to be sold, but people say, I'm not interested. And that I usually get that a lot. And the response that I say every single time, and it works, I'm going to say 60 or 70% of the time it works. At least, maybe I don't set the appointment, but at least 70% of the time it gets them talking. I kind of say it a little differently, but I'm like, great, Edward, that's exactly why I'm calling you today. Did you get it taken care of? So I just go right to, did you get it taken? And then they're going to say one or two things. They're going to say, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, did you get that's when it opens. I'm getting them talking. So what do you mean? Well, what I mean is, did you get the insurance in place in event of your death that protects your family? So I'm saying the same thing you're doing, just maybe a little different. And then, and both of them work excellent. I tell people do them both. But the one thing I'll say, if they say no, because 90% of them will say no, not interested. I'll say, did you get it taken care of? If they, what do you mean? Well, did you get the coverage in place? No. Then I'll go into what you were doing. Was it a cost issue or a coverage issue? So I'm keeping it general. Jeremy Miner talks about that too. I haven't earned the right to ask them specifics on what they did or didn't do, but I can ask them, did you get it taken care of? If not, was it a cost issue or a coverage issue? And they'll usually tell me one or the other. And what it does is I find, even if I don't say it, gets them talking. If I get the client talking on that call and get them actually talking to me, I find that I have at least a 70% chance of setting an appointment.
Yeah. And one thing I'm going to interject a little bit, Doug, and have us kind of pivot away from that question a little bit. Here's something too that Jeremy Miner talks about, and we use Jeremy Miner for a lot of our training. If you haven't been in it yet, you'll start to see the NEPQ style of sales that we do here. But I always want to make sure I ask a question that I know the answer to, or if I don't know the answer to it, the negative answer doesn't matter to me because it's not a client I want to deal with, right? So what I mean by that is, if I give them the option by saying, hey, Candy, giving you a call about the form you filled out, I see it's been a little while. Did you ever get coverage in place? Right? Like, I've jumped into this, did you ever get that taken care of? Well, what do you mean? Well, did you get the coverage in place for that? So what do we know that we've all been trained to do every now and again when we want to get a salesperson off the phone? those little white lies, right? Oh yeah, we got that taken care of. We all good. Don't we? Thank you. I appreciate you calling. You have a good day, right? And they're getting off the phone with us. So I don't want to start necessarily with that question. I want to start with the question that we want to start with is that more. It's a little bit more. It's a real question in the sense of like, well, I'm calling about the form that you sent in. This is about mortgage protection coverage to protect your family in the event of death or disability. Are you someone who's still like you care about your family and you want to make sure that if something happened to you, your family would be taken care of? Like, even if they do have coverage in place, we're hoping that they say yes to that question, right? And what I would imagine is that we're going to have a very high percentage that say yes to that particular question. All right. And so now we can go into, as you were saying, Doug, those the other three questions is cost, or I said qualify, but cost or coverage. I'm kind of assuming that they don't have it taken care of, and I'm going to let them be the ones to bring it up if they already have something in place. Oh, well, no. I did get something yes, I do care about my family, and that's why I did get this taken care of, because I'm telling them that, well, in my records, I'm not seeing that. Like, the only reason you have that as a bonus lead is because in the Symmetry CRM, they're not listed as someone who has a policy with us. So I'm calling assuming that they don't have a policy. All right. And I want to see, do they still care about their family and want to make sure that if something were to happen to them, their family would be protected and taken care of? Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, of course. All right, great. So when you got this form, what was it that prevented you from getting coverage at that time? Was it if they got coverage, guys, do you think they're going to interrupt you and say, oh, no, I went with State Farm and got a $500,000 term policy with them? Right. And so this is just, Doug, like just a little modification of what because that's you and I'm on the same page. That's what we were taught, right? Like, ask them if they got the coverage in place. But the more we've dug in with Jeremy Mana, he was like, let's start removing that question and let them be the ones to bring that up, because you're planting something in their head as here's how you can get rid of me off this phone right now. If you say, yeah, I got it covered. Oh, okay. Well, have a good day. And then, we're getting off the phone and they're going on about their day. But if we stay focused on, this is the coverage that'll protect your family. Are you still wanting to make sure that your family is protected in the event of death or disability? Is that still a concern, or you're just like, you're not worried about them anymore? Oh, no, I'm still okay, great. So what was it that prevented you from being able to get coverage whenever you first sent this back? Did maybe one of our agents didn't reach out? Did anyone reach out? Oh, no one reached out. Okay. So you're not even sure of, what the cost is or if you qualify. Oh, well, I'm so glad I got you on the phone. Right. So we've answered, like, the reason that they don't have coverage is because no one ever contacted them. And there's going to be some people that are in that boat. Or someone did contact them and it was cost, or it was coverage, or they didn't qualify. Right. Okay, great. Glad I got you on the phone. We got some great new products that are able to protect so many more people than we could just a year or two ago. I need to book 30 minutes of your time to go over some options for you. Let me get a little bit more information from you, and I'll have everything worked up whenever we sit down. What works best? This upcoming Tuesday, I still have a 4 o'clock or I have a 6:30 available in my calendar. Right. But then to Doug's point, that ideal of, like, do they have coverage in place or not? Just because they didn't get it with us doesn't mean they couldn't have gone and got it somewhere else. But let's let them bring that up, right? And then go into, as you were saying, Doug, those questions of cost, coverage, or was it a personal thing that prevented them? Like, I want to understand, why didn't we get it back then when we could have, so that we can answer that question right off the get-go whenever we start that appointment now. Guys, these things will help you navigate the bonus leads in such a different way, right? We don't have to fear bonus leads. Like, what we're trying to do is we're trying to be the ultimate problem solvers, right? It may have been a while since they took a look at this, but if the emotion is there and the urgency of protecting their family in the event of death or disability, like, that still does matter. And spend some time on that first question, right? Because that's how we're bringing the emotion back, and that's how we're bringing that urgency back. Okay. And then we can move into the other three of why we didn't get it when we could have, so that when we do have our appointment, we can solve and answer those issues and move forward of getting that coverage and getting that stuff in place now for your family.